Chapter 6, Nothing Less Than Our Best. Jocelyn. The stately stone arch at the front of Shattuck St. Mary's was intended to give all those passing under it the sense they were entering a unique environment with a long tradition of higher learning and achievement. It certainly had that effect on us. The Shattuck St. Mary's campus, dating back to 1858, was in Faribault, Minnesota, a 6-hour drive from our home in Grand Forks. Our journey there had begun 6 months earlier when the new girls hockey coach, Gordy Stafford, phoned with news that the school had increased the financial support it could provide us. Although it was still a stretch for our parents, the extra financial aid made it possible for us to accept. In addition to playing hockey, Monique and I were both straight-A students, and the promise of challenging academics, along with the school's commitment to its girls hockey program, made it a perfect fit. Over the summer, we tackled the suggested reading list and shopped for clothes that met the school's dress code of gray, black, white, or maroon polos and black or khaki pants. The day we drove under the school's stone arch was full of emotion. Our brothers had all moved away to pursue their hockey dreams, but this was a first for us. We wondered if we'd fit in as our dad parked our white Chevy Astra van next to much fancier Range Rovers and black SUVs. We checked in at the upper school, dropped our gear off at the hockey rink, and then got the keys to our new dorm room. At first, we were handed keys to 2 different rooms. Alarmed that we weren't sharing a room, we quickly said we needed to room together, explained we shared half our stuff. The administrator helping us, Mrs. Carpentier, said she could make some changes and move us in together since none of the other students had arrived. She explained there were 4 other sets of twins who were living in the dorms, and none of them wanted to room together, so they had assumed the same about us. With that crisis averted, our parents helped make our beds and watched as we unpacked our belongings, including a poster of Oregon runner Steve Prefontaine that Mom had given us to put up on the wall. Similar to the one we had at home, the quote on it said, "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift." She also gave us a small book of daily inspirations and a framed essay titled "Winning Isn't Normal." We also both received a card-sized Linda laminated picture of 2 girls, one helping the other up, that said, "2 is better than 1." We still have that card today. Unexpectedly, our dad was more emotional than our mom. As we finished unpacking the majority of our stuff, he got very quiet. His emotions threatened to trigger our own waterworks. The 2 of us put on a brave face and tried not to cry. We got ready to walk our parents to the van and say our big goodbye, when suddenly the prospect of watching them get into the van and drive away was too overwhelming. Instead, we asked if we could say goodbye in our new dorm room. Dad shed a few tears as we hugged him and said goodbye. Mom was much more stoic. We couldn't believe she held it together. We even brought it up the next time we spoke to them on the phone. We were surprised that Mom didn't cry. "You weren't in the car on the way home," Dad said. She cried the whole time. Monique. As soon as they left, Jocelyn and I sat on our beds and bawled our eyes out. It was the profound realization that we weren't going home, that everything was new and different, and that we now had to make our own way. We didn't know anyone. We didn't have any routines. We didn't have a cell phone either. There was a phone in our room, but we were told that service was cut off every night at 9 p.m. We were all alone, except we had each other, which meant a lot. As our grandmother said, we were the same. There were just 2 of us. We also knew our parents wouldn't have left us if they didn't think we could handle ourselves. Deep down, we knew we could do it. Once we had a good cry, we looked up at each other and knew that we'd hit the wall. We were bored. "We can either stay here and cry some more," I finally said, "or we can get up and go figure this out." We wandered downstairs to the lounge and began to make friends. Out of 300 students in the entire upper school, our incoming 9th grade class totaled 50 students, 10 of whom were girls, and out of them, 6 played hockey. The 6 of us lived in the dorm, which was located in the lower school, and so, in a short time, we were trading stories and talking about hockey and where we'd played and who we knew in common. It was an exciting time to be there. Shattuck was renowned for its boys hockey program, a national powerhouse known for developing standout D1 college players, as well as a growing number of NHL players. The girls' program had lagged behind, not quite as an afterthought, but definitely as a stepsister to the boys' team. Coach Stafford had taken over the program after years on the boys' side, with the stated intention of building a girls' program that would carve out its own national reputation. Recruiting the 2 of us had been Coach Stafford's top priority in turning around Shattuck's girls' program, and we were fully on board and wanting to win championships. It was his first year coaching a girls' team and our full season playing on one. The timing was perfect. Just like the Steve Prefontaine poster we'd hung in our dorm room, Jocelyn and I were ready to give it our all. Nothing less than our best, starting from day 1. Tryouts began the next morning with testing, typical agility and endurance drills, although there was nothing typical about the way the 2 of us aced the mile run. But rather than stopping after crossing the finish line, I cried across the track to run with another player who was struggling to finish. I ran with her until she completed her mile. It was our way of cheering for the one behind and encouraging and helping others to reach their full potential, which made our entire team better. For our first ice ice session, Jocelyn and I arrived early, as we still do to this day. We were, in fact, the first 2 players there. Coach Stafford says we were literally the first 2 girls he ever coached on the ice because when he came out that day, he found us already sitting on the bench waiting for practice to start. We wanted to prove we could make the prep team as freshmen, even though he obviously had that in mind when he recruited us. But we didn't take anything for granted. We were eager to show him that he was right about us and that together we, along with the other players he recruited, were going to turn the girls' hockey program into a national contender. Ironically, we'd never formally met. We went through the entire first practice looking for an opportunity. Finally, at the end, after he finished addressing the team, we introduced ourselves. He hopped down from the bench and we all shook hands. We let him know that we were excited to be at Shattuck. Jocelyn. Coach Stafford understood us from the get-go. He realized that we enjoyed the daily grind, that we were workers who thrived on the monotony and challenge of a workout, trying to improve and being good teammates. We loved putting on our skates and being at the rink. We loved playing the game, and he loved the game too. Hockey helped ease our transition into student life. Our days began every morning at 6 when we hurried out of our dorm in our sweats with our bags filled with a change of clothes and books and piled into assistant coach Jennifer Kranz's waiting Jetta. Not counting Coach Kranz, there were 5 of us in the car. Monique and I usually shared the passenger seat in the front, one of us sitting on the other's lap on the short drive to the rink. The social aspect of being on an all-girls team was a really enjoyable change for us. Just being in the locker room with our teammates made a huge difference. We were part of the team. We sat in the corner next to 3 seniors. We didn't say much initially as we studied the dynamic and learned the way things were done. Before our first exhibition game, for instance, we noticed the way our teammates hung up their jerseys as soon as they got in the locker room and put them back in their bags immediately after the game, rather than leave them on the bench or hanging them on a hook. The respect our teammates had for representing the school, the program, and each other stood out. Not every program or team is like that, but above all else, Coach Stafford preached a simple message to us. Just be a good person. Crush the opposition, win the game, and be a good person too. Our team had 21 players, 4 of whom were freshmen, the 2 of us plus Sasha Sherry and Amanda Castagnetti, aka Ducky. The team's 7 seniors embraced us, especially team captain Allie Johansson, who silenced anyone who might have griped about us being 9th graders on a U19 team. As far as she was concerned, we could have been 10 years old and she would have been fine with it so long as we helped win a championship. Our schedule typically consisted of 3 or 4 games a weekend, with an occasional weekday game. It seemed like we were always taking a long bus ride somewhere. Before games, Monique and I had our own routine, which has evolved over the years, but there's always been a routine. After the team warm-up, we tucked ourselves in a corner behind the bench and kicked a soccer ball back and forth. Before leaving the locker room, our team blasted Van Halen's anthem, Right Now, and then we were ready. As the season began, we played on a line with Allie. It was the first time Monique and I had been on the same line together since Mites, and we loved it. Without saying a word, we both knew what the other was going to do, but we constantly communicated anyway. It was a twin thing, and we used it to our advantage. Although checking wasn't allowed, we were still aggressive and physical. The refs were hard on us. Coach Stafford was always quick to defend us. Hey, you can't penalize them for being strong, he repeatedly yelled, but sometimes we brought it on ourselves. There was one game when I came down the side with the puck and heard the opposing coach shouting at his defenseman, Take her body! Take her body! She swept in as instructed, only I skated right through her and left her sprawled on the ice. Her coach was irate and demanded a penalty. What are you talking about? Coach Stafford snapped, incensed himself. Our girl had the puck. On and off the ice, we thrived at Shattuck. At night, we called home and eagerly told our parents about the day's news. Test score from biology, the way our algebra teacher, Mr. Irby, seemed to end every period covered in chalk dust, or something Coach Stafford had said during practice. Too often, we were in mid-conversation when the line went dead at 9 p.m. That was frustrating but good. There was something wonderful about not ever having enough time to share all the good things that had happened, and knowing that when there were problems, we could figure things out on our own.